Thanks for joining us. In order to support us to produce Clancy's Kitchen, you can donate as little as €5 or $5 a month and gain access to exclusive content. Just go to www.patreon.com/Clancy's Kitchen. That's www.patreon.com/Clancy's Kitchen. Enjoy the podcast. Fáilte Croeso nôl. Welcome back to Clancy's Kitchen, the podcast. And Croeso nôl a ti, Ryland, because you've been away in Wales touring. You've been portraying the role of Welsh poet Waldo Williams. So we'll start off talking a bit about that. We might then get to look at some of the works of Irish poet Seamus Heaney. But let's look at Waldo Williams first and your whole experience of doing that. So tell us about Waldo Williams. Who was he?
Well, it's been a few weeks now, but it was some experience. I'll start by saying that. I never thought I'd be playing Waldo Williams because he's such an incredible character, an incredible poet, but also an incredible character because he was known as a poet, but also he was a peacemaker, an activist. He believed in pacifism, not in a sort of throwaway way that many of us in the modern world do. He believed he believed in it to the extent that he was jailed because he stopped paying taxes in his protest for the Korean War, for instance. And then he wrote poems like Preseli when he was in England that really had an effect on the whole time they were living in. For instance, the British government wanted to post the army down in West Wales in the Preseli Mountains for their training and the environs. And people like him had an effect on that not happening. You could be here for 3 hours talking about him. He was just an incredible character.
Okay. Because obviously he was a Welsh character are you familiar with sort of the kind of place he grew up, and can you relate to all of that?
Yeah, of course, because, that's your starting point as an actor. And doing a show like this, incidentally, was a one-person show, but it was a play. You look at it as an actor, and you start with the script. It was a script beautifully written, in my opinion, by an excellent Welsh writer called Mererid Hopwood, predominantly a poet herself, so she had that deep understanding of the poetry. And you begin at the beginning. You begin with the text, because I believe I'm a text-based actor. But you look at someone's childhood first. And what's interesting about Waldo, he grew up in a non-Welsh-speaking part of Wales, South Pembrokeshire, Haverfordwest. But as a young boy, he moved to the area known as the Preseli Mountains, Mynachlog D, and those type of areas. And the first thing that came off the script to me was he was transfixed by the experience of hearing the Welsh language naturally in its habitat without sounding like David Attenborough or anything.
Yeah.
He was just changed by it, I think.
So although he moved, how far away? It was only a couple of hours, if that?
Well, in our old countries, sometimes half an hour can change a world.
Absolutely.
You move up from the flatlands of South Pembrokeshire and you see the Preseli Mountains emerging in front of you, and society changes a bit. Not so much today. I know a lot of people in South Pembrokeshire who are big into the Welsh language. And things are changing all the time.
Yeah.
But traditionally, you go into the heartlands of that rural area with its own colloquial rhythms, own small communities.
Yeah.
And the whole package. Hard-working people on hard land.
Well, that's what I was going to say. Apart from the actual language and hearing, and I guess the sounds of the language and how that was different to him from where he'd come from in Haverfordwest, to hear the real people speaking the language of Wales there. But the geographical location, the Preseli Mountains, it sounds romantic. I mean, all of that must have had an impact on him.
I think massively. And not in a romantic way, you know. It was more about other things, deeper moral things that sort of paint his world outlook to you in his poems. Not always on the first reading you find it. He used to call them switches. He'd leave switches in his poems, so you go, that's what he means.
Wow.
Like like a bulb going on, you know.
So who was Waldo Williams, the man?
That's a big question. And I preface that by saying, before going over to do the play, I wasn't worried as such, but I knew that people I knew him so well. I knew of his work. You had scholars, so many, and people who revered him and loved him. And I felt a bit
Overwhelmed.
I'm going back here and people will not like what I'm doing, or I got him wrong because I didn't know him.
And he was active, Ryland, when? Like what years?
Anyway, he was born at the beginning of the 20th century, became active in the middle part. So probably late 30s, 40s, I believe, he died in 1971.
Right.
And he had one anthology, which stands today as his work of art, if you like. It's called Dail Pren, Leaves of the Wood, Leaves of the Tree. And that's an important thing, the root.
So how do you, as an actor, approach that? What was your process in finding this character and portraying this character?
Well, years ago, I worked with Terry Hans in Clwyd Theatr Cymru, who, that used to be the director of, an Englishman, director of the Royal Shakespeare Company. And he instilled something in a lot of us as actors, a lot of Welsh actors, that it begins with the text. You respect the text, you learn it well, and then you can play with it. And then you can take it to other places, So I looked at it first as a play. And one thing that came to my mind immediately was, I remember watching Joaquin Phoenix playing Napoleon in that film. And I was thinking, there are probably countless academics in this world, scholars, who have given their lives to study a figure like Napoleon, okay? So my job wasn't to go, I know everything about Waldo. I know everything about his poetry. I've read everything on him, because people will know more than me.
Yeah.
But what's quintessential in actors, you know this, we observe. We're like kitchen sink psychologists, and sometimes we have different colour to other psychologists. I think because we watch people. So there's a
natural curiosity, I guess.
Without a doubt, yeah.
And it's a good way to approach it, because if you approach it from and especially with someone who was an academic, but you've got to find the man. Who was the man? What was his inspiration?
Yeah.
So that curiosity, in the same way that he was curious about life and how things worked, that's seems like a key or a way into it, isn't it?
And he was such a 360-degree 3D type of character. You couldn't shy away from it because he had an abundance of joy. He was a brilliant teacher with children, not in the old stuffy way. Yeah. There was a story actually where he bought a wigwam to bring into the school so he could go in and play and teach and read with the kids. He was before his time. Yeah. It sounds like something you'd see in Finland today, right?
And that's a great thing, isn't it, in portraying a character? Not to get fixated with anyone, something you read or you decide how they are.
Yeah.
Inevitably, a piece of who you are is going to come into that as well. Like from what you're talking about, Waldo, I see a lot of you actually in that, your thinking and your, emotional attachment.
Waldo
and the politics and all of that side of it. I remember, and similarly with even a fictional character, I remember when, because you and I have different, I guess, we had different experiences with acting. Like you've been acting from a very early age, professionally. And I have as well, but not professionally at the same level you have. I guess I started with the local drama group,
Same
you know. But I remember when I went to the American Academy of Dramatic Arts and looking at the different, how you approach the role of any character you're portraying. And, you know, you're given different methods, I guess, of doing that. And one of them was Stanislavski, and, you know, that whole the sense memory thing and that the method acting, I guess, generally, you know. And I guess there's a danger with being locked into any one way
Without a doubt.
of doing it. Like I
don't think Waldo would.
No. I feel for me, I'm a bit of a magpie with that. I would take from different ways
Me
or different,
too.
or it depends on the character
Yeah.
you're portraying as well, doesn't it? You know?
I think it's good if you read Stanislavski or, you know, if you're into the method, no problem. Other guys or girls will turn up and say, I just know my lines.
Yeah.
Like Ian McKellen in that famous comedy sketch saying, I pretend
Yes.
I'm a wizard.
Exactly.
You know?
Wasn't it Laurence Olivier said, well, I don't find an actor until I put on my nose.
He actually also told Dustin Hoffman, the marathon man,
Yeah.
when he was running before a
because
take
Dustin Hoffman would be a method actor.
to get out of breath.
Yeah, yeah.
And Larry Olivier would just turn to him, haven't you tried acting,
Yeah.
my dear boy?
Do you know what? I just finished reading, well, it was a few weeks back, a book by Brenda Fricker. And she was talking about My Left Foot. And she won an Academy Award
She
for
did
that,
indeed,
actually.
yeah.
You know, it was lovely how she talks about it in the book, actually, how she totally didn't expect to win this. But anyway, Daniel Day-Lewis would be very much sort of method approach to acting. And because he was playing the role of a paraplegic, I guess, in My Left Foot, he wanted her to sit with him during the break or in the cafeteria and actually feed him as his mother, you know. And at a certain point she went, for Christ's sake, Daniel, come off it
Cop
now.
on now.
You know, while everyone else was gone to the pub for a few, she was with him, like pretending to, you know, immerse herself in this character.
Well, I've been doing it for a few years now, and I think it's a good thing to take something from everything. But we're actually characters ourselves, playing characters.
Yeah, yeah.
So the way we react to
Yeah.
things is different.
Yeah.
I remember Finbar's good friend Christopher Walken saying, it's just me.
Yeah.
A version of me playing this type of
Yes.
angry.
Yeah.
And then we put on a nose or a wig.
yeah.
But it's very difficult with someone like Waldo for it not to affect you because he's such an incredible character. And I said about his playfulness and his humour. He also had a side that, because he had that sensitivity, that things hurt him more than the average. I think true artists are like that.
Yeah.
It just affects you. And he had a few hard losses in his life. He lost his sister Morfydd when she was young. He lost his wife after 2 years of marriage. And she was the nest of him, really. And his mother too.
It's a lovely way of putting it. She was the nest.
He beneath, he nave. She was my nest, my heaven. And she lost her again.
Can you give us a piece of
Well,
some of his works?
it's Tony Conran is someone who translated his poems. We might do a song afterwards.
Yeah, lovely.
You know. And one of the first, this poem wasn't in the play, but it's one that I knew from when I was 18. A poem called Cofio. It's one of his early ones.
Cofio means remembering.
Yeah, and it's probably more lyrical than others later that would have deeper meaning, maybe. I don't know. But because of that, I'll read it. It seems slightly incongruous to read it in English because...
Yeah, I can imagine. It was written in Welsh originally.
I'll recite the first verse in Welsh
Right, okay.
to get the feel of his language, and then you get the whole poem in English just to get the sense of the man, I suppose. And he talks about the power of memory and thinking about the things that are gone, the languages that we don't hear today, and the importance of that. They hold together a universe of a whole culture, of a whole people's lives and ways.
Yeah. Okay, go on, read it.
Cofio remembering. I'll put a bit of something on it. Un funud fach cynnel o'r hael o'r wybren. Un funud fwyn cyn dil o'r hwyr i'w hynt. I gofio am y pethau angofiedig a'r goll yn awr yn llwch yr amser gynt. Before the sun has left the sky, 1 minute, one dear minute before the journeying night, to call to mind the things that are forgotten, now in the dust of ages, lost from sight. Like foam of a wave on a lonely seacoast breaking, like the wind's song where there's no ear to mind. I know they're calling to us vainly, old unremembered things of humankind. Exploit and skill of early generations, from tiny cottages or mighty hall, find tales that centuries ago were scattered, the gods that nobody knows now at all. Little words of old, fugitive languages that were sprightly on the lips of men, and pretty to the ear in the prattle of children. But no one's tongue will call on them again. Oh, generations on the earth encumbered, their divine dreams, fragile divinity. Is only silence left to the heart's affections that once rejoiced and grieved as much as we? Often, when I'm alone and it's near nightfall, I yearn to acknowledge you and know each one. Is there no way fond memory can keep you? Forgotten ancient things of the family of man.
Wow. A strong theme about loss in there, isn't there? Loss of language, or certain ways of expressing, maybe.
But also for us to understand how precious our things are. The languages. Mm-hmm. How many languages have we lost? Mm-hmm. And a language isn't academic. Mm-hmm. It's, Collie Power said on the loss of, what's his name now from the brewery, Tom Nealon.
Tom Nealon, yeah.
He said, people often cite when someone like Tom Nealon dies, a library dies with him.
Yeah.
Imagine a language then.
Yes, yeah.
How many books it's amazing. He's amazing.
Yeah.
Waldo.
Yeah. Beautiful, beautiful.
This, I thought of doing a very minor song called Beth Yw'r Hafu Mi, but it's too somber maybe.
Yes.
This is sort of about loss. My father used to sing this song, but it's beautiful. It's called Gwydir Glas, the Blue Glass.
I know the first verse.
Os daw fy nghariad yma heno, I giro'r gwydr glas. Rwch ateb gweddus iddo, na tebwch monon gas. Na diw y ferch ddim gartre, na'i wachus dan y tŷ. Llanc ifanc o'r plwy harach, sydd wedi mynd â hi. Pe meddwn edyn erir, mi fyddwn lawer gwell. I hedeg at fy nghariad, sydd yn y gwledydd bell. Dros diroedd maith a moroedd, gobeithio I fod yn iach. Rwy'n caru'r tir lle cerddodd, o rhaid y galon dda. Os daw fy nghariad yma heno, I giro'r gwydr glas. Rwch ateb gweddus iddo, na tebwch monon gas. Na diw y ferch ddim gartre, na'i wachus dan y tŷ. Ond ifanc o'r plwy harach, sydd wedi mynd â hi. Os daw fy nghariad yma heno, I giro'r gwydr glas.
I think we sang that on our wedding day.
I think we did, Rob. Yeah. So we've talked about Waldo and my processes, but you could go on for ages, couldn't you? I get lost in it a bit.
Yeah.
But you, of course, had your processes in acting, and that goes back to good old Hollywood, doesn't it?
Good old Hollywood. that was purely kind of accidental, really, because I went to Boston. I've talked about this before a little bit, so I won't go on too much about it. But basically, I got the acting bug, let's say, because I was always involved in drama at home and plays.
Yeah, I was going to say, before that, actually.
Yeah, well, it was at home. I mean, the Brewery Lane we've talked about here. We've had Collie Power on and how amazing it was. And that, for one season, you might be playing the lead actor, and the next season it's like, no, you're painting the sets now, making the tea at the break kind of thing.
Good grounding.
Exactly. No, it was a great grounding. Yeah, it was a fabulous grounding. But when I went to Boston, my sister Aoife was to play a part in a play, and she was too busy. She was performing concerts, and she asked me to step in, and I did. And that's when I kind of got the acting bug. And it was great crack. It was just such great fun. And I went from there to the American Academy of Dramatic Arts in Pasadena. Now, I wanted to go to New York, in actual fact, but my boyfriend of the time wanted to go to the Sun. So we ended up in Pasadena, yeah. And interestingly, he's passed away
nothing.
since, God rest him, David Shannon. But his father was American ambassador to Ireland in the 1970s, yeah. So we ended up in Pasadena, and I ended up going to the American Academy of Dramatic Arts without putting really too much thought into it. And we were saying earlier about styles of acting and your approach to acting, and I had never thought about it really. It was a case of learn your lines and don't bump into the furniture, as they say.
Still that, isn't it?
I guess, yeah. But then it was the whole thing about, you know, your method. And that to me was like, well, what does that even mean? I think I got too much in my head about the whole thing. And I remember doing this part actually from the play The Glass Menagerie, Steinbeck. And
No, that's Tennessee Williams.
No, Tennessee Williams. Tennessee Williams, The Glass Menagerie. And it was the mother, the part of Amanda, you know. And I remember trying to get this character and doing the whole background and writing a biography on this character and how she would move and how she would speak and what she would say and all the rest of it. And this was just an exercise in class kind of thing. I thought this isn't going the way it's supposed to. And I remember... you know, I was supposedly making food, like stirring up a pot of porridge or something, and I was giving out to my son, Tom. And I thought, well, this has gone out the window now anyway. And I remember, you know, the porridge spilling out of the bowl and catching a bit and throwing it at him and laughing, and then just stopping, going, sorry, that all went. And I remember the director or the instructor, let's say drama instructor, going, no, that's it. You know, stay with that.
Yeah.
You know, that, like, you found something within that, the playfulness that was absolutely lovely. Do you know?
It.
And that's when I found, okay, so, you know, I can bring part of my own stuff into this.
Well,
I don't
mix,
have to stick rigidly to this is how you perform a character.
It's a mix because, you know, some people say, well, it's just you.
Yeah.
Others say, well, it's a mix, you know, you can immerse and do your method. I remember doing something which was a sort of development of the Stanislavski method. Sam Kogan style of acting, I think it's Russian. And it was too rigid for me because the script had to be A, B, C, D types of thoughts, right? Which is like you walk into a room and your first thought is this, and that's nonsense.
It's crazy because you're all in your head.
Yeah,
how can you react honestly?
But Waldo used to say about the when, the muse, you know, being chaotic. But that's how our minds are.
Yeah, it is.
It's like being in a funeral and you might start laughing. Yeah. You know, it's the terrible things that come in. Yeah. Our minds aren't structured.
No, they're not.
So that's why I always come back to text get the text lock off. Then you could do anything.
That's interesting. I wouldn't approach it that way. Isn't that funny?
That's me. I have to know it inside out.
I look at the character and
Then you can juggle.
But you know what I found really helpful? Like, one of the most helpful things, which at the beginning I thought, what the hell is this? Was fencing. One of the things we were instructed in was
on a farm
fencing.
Like?
This
a fencing.
Yeah. Because it's a fence, defense the whole time. So you're responding without thinking. It's just a spontaneous reaction, which is what life is all about, isn't it?
And acting is
life.
Reacting.
Yeah, I remember one of the instructors there, life problems are acting problems and acting problems are life problems. And that's what I found. If I got too in my head about something, I always found it much easier to play characters that were a million miles away from the person I was, actually.
Wow, yeah.
Like, I remember we looked at Dancing at Lunasa, Brian Friel, and I found that character, what's the character's name now? Christina, I think, Chris Mundy, was the Mundy sisters. Yeah. And it was too close to home in lots of ways, you know, and I kind of felt, no, I can relate too much and I can't I can't completely immerse myself in it because I know it too well. I know that sounds crazy, but I found it easier to play far more abstract characters.
Oh.
People who are far different to me. I remember playing the part of, I can't remember what the play was called, but it was like a Cockney kind of eccentric character.
All right.
Do you know? Yeah. And it was like, really
you
out
said-
there somewhere, darling. And just really loving that because it was so different to the person I was, and I wasn't in my head at all. Do you know? So it's amazing, isn't it?
Yeah, I find it, straight characters are the most difficult.
Yeah.
Because you're always looking, what can I say?
Yeah.
How can I make this line more interesting?
Yeah.
Where sometimes someone has to be the bland person
Yeah.
walking in.
Yeah.
Because others are more colourful.
Yes.
But playing that, you have to have a commitment and a discipline for that, you know.
I'm just thinking
But
of
you just said about-
Oscar Wilde said, it just came to my mind. Oh no, that was about Plinka, so that's kind of contrary to what I said. But he said when he was dying on his deathbed, dying is easy, comedy is difficult.
Well, it is.
And he also said, well, looking at the wallpaper in the room, one of us had to go. It was either me or this wallpaper. Do you know? Yeah.
And you were saying there about Tennessee Williams earlier. It just came back to me that it wasn't Streetcar, it was Glass Menagerie. It's how I got my first job here in Ireland with the Peacock in the Abbey.
Yeah.
Was doing a piece out of that.
Yeah.
I can't,
Which
I
informed you about,
Well, you
darling.
did, darling,
I
because you'd been in
suggested you
Hollywood.
play the
you see.
role. Yeah.
I never went to the moon.
I went much further.
I never got to the moon. I went much further. For time is the longest distance between two places.
Okay, go on. You're going to
Okay,
go off on
I
that
know.
now. We'll get lost
No,
in
I'll
it.
go back to
I
Waldo
want to
later.
get round to, you spoke about Waldo Williams.
Yeah, but I wanted to ask you a question first. You always ask the questions,
Go on
right?
then, ask me.
What I wanted to know is, because when I went back to do Waldo, I sensed or felt a sense of responsibility. I remember you telling me that you did Molly Bloom, and there's a huge thing about Molly Bloom, Bloom's Day every year, and what that entails. But you doing it in Pasadena or Hollywood, and who walks into the theatre but your father and Liam, two that would know a lot about it. And well, they would. Come on. Liam would know as well.
Possibly, yeah.
But did you sense something, it's different now because here are people who'd have a different viewpoint on it? I don't know.
I think it's simpler than that. It's just somebody from home is observing you. Again, it's easier to lose yourself.
Yeah, that's a good point.
I always find it, and it's funny, my sister Aoife is 100% different in this respect. She loves when she's performing. It's a small, intimate audience, and she can see people, and she can see sort of the whites of their eyes. I find that difficult. I find it much easier to go into a zone when you can't see anyone. That brings me back to reality. So I guess in that instance, my father and Liam walking into, in that case, it was Bloom's Day, and I was portraying the character of Molly Bloom from Ulysses. And it brought me back to reality more so. It was like, okay, I'm performing, instead of losing yourself in a character. But, we overcomplicate all these things.
I totally agree.
We overcomplicate Joyce even, actually, of course. There's the whole, academic sort of side to it that I don't profess to know, can relate to any of that side. But the character of Molly Bloom, I mean, her words, she reminded me of my Aunt Anne, actually. The kind of things she would say. She's just
Stream of
observing.
consciousness.
Yeah, the stream of consciousness. She's just saying things as they occur to her. It was a gem of a role to play.
Do you remember Siobhan Wilder, who came in to interview me for the piece in the British Council website or whatever? And she told me in London they'd have these symposiums or people coming together to talk about Joyce and how difficult, the punctuation of Ulysses and the Dubliners and all of this. And everyone, there'll be types now, bearded fellows, pontificating. Well, you will find all this nonsense. And she just turned around, and she had studied it, extensively. She said, well, I just think it's how people in Dublin speak.
Exactly.
And isn't that
so
a joyous
true.
thing to,
The scene in the pub, and they're talking about the guy in Kilmainham.
Yeah.
Maybe this isn't the right kind of, but... so basically, he was found in a certain position, let's say, upon death, and they talked
quite upright.
Yeah, upright. Let's put it that way. And how that happened, and the whole conversation around that. It was just, it would happen here in our local pub as well, and that's what people miss. But can we now?
No, I want to ask you a question.
You've asked me a question.
I know, but I want to ask you another one, and that is with poetry. Because all the Clancys were so immersed in poetry and would just bring poems left, right and centre out of the bag. Did that have an influence on you? And did it have an influence on your acting? This is a hard question.
Oh God, how do you answer something like that? Did it have an influence on me? I guess, inevitably. When something is just around you and you don't think about it and it seeps into the subconscious somehow. Yeah, I guess it did. I can't say that it had an influence on the acting, but although it probably did. Yeah, it probably did in how... And as a child, you're not thinking, oh, wow, look at how my dad or my Uncle Liam or Tom or Paddy are putting this across. You're a bit embarrassed by it, actually, because you can't relate. You're looking at them in one light, and now they're gone into this zone of they're transfixed. Now they're someone else. But I guess on another level, you are taking all that on. When you go to that other place,
Because you are a great reciter in my view. You come from that transition. It becomes natural to you.
But I have to say as well, in fairness to the Irish educational, the way that we approach literature and poetry in schools in Ireland. Now, okay, it's learn off stanza 1 and 2 by tomorrow. But there is a lot of poetry and literature thrown at you. And there's a lot to learn for our leaving certificate. Now, the pros and cons to that, you might say, that is there really the time to totally understand what it is we're looking at here? I think it's only later in life, really. A lot of us are terrified, aren't we, by the written word. And particularly poetry. I think we're supposed to understand and we don't. Whereas I think as you get older and you live life a little bit more and you've experienced a bit more and you know... maybe what loss is or what emotion is on it's a different take on it.
But also the art of the turn of the phrase, when someone says something in a way you thought, oh, it's like listen to a Bob Dylan line and you go, oh, I wish I could have said that. Yeah. Someone who's just captured a moment and put it into words in the most perfect way.
Capturing a moment. It's all about that, whether it's a song, whether it's... you could find it even in rap, in anything, couldn't you?
What poems do you remember them? Or what do you want to read now?
Yeah, well, we were looking at... We've looked at W.B. Yeats, haven't we, a couple of times on the podcast, And one poet that's come to my attention recently is Seamus Heaney, which... I don't know how I missed Seamus Heaney all these years, really. He wasn't a poet that we covered in school. It was W.B. Yeats, it was Austin Clarke, it was Patrick Kavanagh, even Oscar Wilde. But Heaney, I don't remember ever looking at any Heaney poems.
But it seems to be like
poems. Don't people
modern
say
day.
People don't say we say poems, and a lot of people I notice say poems.
We say poems. Cerddi.
Poems. And I don't profess to be any great scholar on Seamus Heaney at all, but some of his poems appeal to me. I think that's the essence of it for me in Heaney, being able to create an atmosphere of a moment. And also I'm drawn to now, look, he came from... he's a renowned poet. I mean, he won the Nobel Prize for Literature in 1995. He's one of the most revered, loved, best loved poets in the world, actually.
Yeah.
And, as I say, I don't profess to know a huge amount about his poetry, but I'm drawn, and I know he came from Derry, from a rural farming background in Derry on his father's side, and his mother's side it was the linen, so the more industrial side on his mother's side. So there is nature in his poems. Of course, being from Derry, he grew up in the time of the Troubles, as we call them, in the north of Ireland as well. So that he's written about that. And he has lectured, God, all over in the best universities in the world, from Oxford to Harvard,
What's interesting is there's a parallel there. You just immediately said there's that influence from nature, community, farming backgrounds, rural, but also
somewhat similar to Patrick Kavanagh that way. But for
with
me,
Waldo, but also he was, he had commentary on what was happening in a troubling time in the north.
Yeah, I don't know much of that side of his poetry.
Is there in his work, what I have read, which is really interesting.
It is as a backdrop, of course, it is inevitably. But I am drawn to the poetry in relation to memory, family, love, loss, from the perspective of a child, actually.
Brilliant.
So can I read one of his
poems? Of course, do. Well,
and
I put a bit of music on it as we started doing.
Okay, so this one, now this is from a series of sonnets actually called Clearances, dedicated to the memory of his mother, Margaret Kathleen McCann Heaney. And, well, look, I'll read it first, because let it speak for itself, and then we'll take a look at it afterwards, okay? When all the others were away at Mass, I was all hers as we peeled potatoes. They broke the silence, let fall one by one, like solder weeping off the soldering iron. Cold comforts set between us, things to share, gleaming in a bucket of clean water. And again let fall. Little pleasant splashes from each other's work would bring us to our senses. So, while the parish priest at her bedside went hammer and tongs at the prayers for the dying, and some were responding and some were crying, I remembered her head bent towards my head, her breath in mine, our fluent dipping knives, never closer, the whole rest of our lives. Isn't that beautiful?
It is so beautiful.
Isn't it lovely?
Yeah.
And
why isn't poetry more...
It's so evocative. It's that intimate moment spent with his mother, something as mundane as peeling potatoes.
Yeah.
Do you know?
Yeah.
Something that, we do as a kind of a necessary kind of domestic task that has to be done. But in that moment, because, as he said, that it was like I was all hers and really she was all mine in that moment. He was the eldest of 9 children,
Yeah.
and, to me, it's like it goes to show today how different we are, in spending time with our children, these big gestures. Like, it's not like, she was taking them out for pancakes or bringing them to the local fair or whatever, buying them something.
Stuff.
Everyday
and
stuff.
And the poetic in it.
Oh, it's beautiful.
It makes me feel, why aren't these pearls of wisdom more forthright in our everyday lives? Because I was listening to James O'Brien, he's actually from Irish descent, but the journalist. And someone called in, and this fellow was talking about a doctor he knew who loved science, but he also loved the arts. And he said something I'll never forget. He said, Science teaches us how the world works.
Right.
But the arts teach us how to live. I never forget that.
Yeah.
But sometimes it's out of balance, isn't it? These lines, not just reading poetry, listening to poetry.
But the simplicity of it, the simplicity of capturing the atmosphere of that moment and the intimacy that was created. And then, you know, him as the eldest. And of course, you know, back in Ireland, the 1950s, you didn't have those kind of deep felt conversations. There was silences. You didn't need, you know, and he was enlisted to help her out to peel the potatoes, right?
Yeah.
But the closeness that he felt to her in that moment, that with all of the kids and all of the hustle bustle of the household and getting on with the tasks that one had to do, the sharing of that moment became something really sacred.
The house that was out in every weather.
This is
the mother.
Yeah, the mother. And then the contrast of that when she died at her bedside, the priest, how did he put it, the hammer and tongs of the prayers, which again captures, and you've experienced this in Ireland, you know, when somebody passes, it's a beautiful thing, but it's also it's ceremonial, I guess, in a way, that you naturally go into decades of the rosary. And it almost feels...
Hammer and tongs.
Yes. It's almost methodical, you know, and everybody answers back and, okay, this is happening. But for him, you know, he was brought back to that moment, her head bent towards my head. Yeah. And then the contrast of that to her death, you know, the hammers and tongs as opposed to the intimacy and the silences and the unsaid. It didn't need to be said. No big gestures needed to be made. It was just her and me together. Beautiful, isn't it?
Does that evoke a song for you in any way? Something about the kitchen?
Yeah, no, it does, but not quite yet, because I'd like to do yet another. Can I do another? I know. Just to give a flavour, I guess, of Heaney. This is, it's also, I was drawn to his poems about childhood, really. And this one is called The Errand. And again, I think we can all relate to this, somebody kind of teasing you, right, as an adult to a child. So this was his dad and himself. On you go now, run son like the devil, and tell your mother to try to find me a bubble for the spirit level, and a new knot for this tie. But still he was glad, I know, when I stood my ground, putting it up to him, with a smile that trumped his smile and his fool's errand, waiting for the next move in the game. Isn't that lovely? Isn't it lovely? Do you know that?
Things.
Yeah, the playfulness as a child. You know the way you'd be, as we'd say in Carrick, codding someone.
Yeah.
Do you know?
Yeah.
I think there's something lovely in that.
So do you have something, like, to finish off now, a song that would evoke?
Well, no, not that particularly, but let's say in terms of, because we've had some lovely pieces of music, but I guess the whole theme of potatoes and peeling potatoes puts me in mind of a song that's quite uplifting, actually, called Culcanan, right? Should we give that a go? You're kind of familiar with it, are you?
Sort of, yeah.
Yeah, okay. This was, Mary Black brought this out sometime in the 80s, but it's an old song.
Dedicate this to Seamus Heaney then.
To Seamus Heaney,
and Waldo Williams.
And Waldo Williams, but also to all the mammies in Ireland and Wales and beyond who would peel potatoes, that mundane task, day in, day out, for years and years on end. So
go on then.
This is in honour of the spud. Well, did you ever make Culcanan with a lovely pickled cream, with the greens and scallions mingled like a picture in a dream? Did you ever make a hole on top to hold the melted flake of the creamy flavoured butter that your mother used to make? Oh, you did, so you did, so did he, and so did I. And the more I think about it, sure, the nearer I'm to cry. Oh, weren't them the happy days when troubles we knew not, and our mothers made colcannon in a little skillet pot. Well, did you ever make potato cake and box it to the school, tucked underneath your rockster with your books, your slate and rule? And when teacher wasn't looking, sure a great big bite you take of the creamy flavoured butter that your mother used to make. Oh, you did, so did he, and so did I. And the more I think about it, sure, the nearer I'm to cry. Oh, weren't them the happy days when troubles we knew not, and our mothers made colcannon in a little skillet pot. Well, did you ever go a-courting, boys, when the evening sun went down, and the moon began a-peeping from beyond the hill of down, and you wandered down a boreen where the Clúracháin was seen, and you whispered loving praises to your own dear sweet Colleen? Oh, you did, so did he, and so did I. And the more I think about it, sure, the nearer I'm to cry. Oh, weren't them the happy days when troubles we knew not, and our mothers made colcannon in a little skillet pot. Oh, you did, so did he, and so did I. And the more I think about it, sure, the nearer I'm to cry. Oh, weren't them the happy days when troubles we knew not, and our mothers made colcannon in a little skillet pot. Woo!
Whoa!
Do you know what a Clúracháin is?
Go on.
It's kind of like a leprechaun, only he's a bit more, not devious, he's a bit more of a degenerate. He's like a drinking leprechaun, let's say. And he'd hang around pubs and breweries, kind of haunting the place.
And where's
That's
he
a
from? And where's he from?
Oh, sure, anywhere. Anywhere there's a pub or a brewery, you'd find a Clúracháin.
Well, there you go.
Join us again on Clancy's Kitchen. Go raibh míle maith agaibh. Diolch an bhfear, slán go fóill.